We're live.
Alrighty, everybody, we are live as the New York Knicks just got one of their most inspiring victories of the season, arguably their most inspiring victory of the season, destroying the San Antonio Spurs by a score of 114-89. It was their best defensive performance of the season. It was just an outstanding performance. Really, after the first 5 minutes of the first quarter, the Knicks were the most dominant team on the floor. They started that game off a little slow, but then after that, it was all Knicks from there, just dominating. Victor Wembanyama had 7 turnovers. I thought they did a fantastic job at guarding him, despite him still managing to finish with about around 25 points, something like that. Mikal Bridges, though, 25 points, 5 steals. That was the star of the show. He also won Defensive Player of the Game. But the most noteworthy thing of this victory, the Knicks snapped the Spurs' 11-game win streak. The Spurs have looked like the best team in the NBA for quite some time over the past couple weeks. They absolutely dominated the month of February. In fact, they did not lose a single game in the month of February. The New York Knicks ended that streak today, and that is a phenomenal win. And Johnny, I want to pass it off to you real quick to kind of get your initial takeaways from this game and what really stood out to you.
Yeah, man, I'm feeling great. This is, I think, probably the best win of the season. We hold the San Antonio Spurs to a season low 89 points. It was just a really good game all around. Mikal Bridges, of course, probably the best game of his season, maybe most impactful. I know he had like a 35-point game in Boston, but we actually lost that one. So this was maybe his most impactful game. 25 points, extremely efficient from the field, from three, and then 5 steals. Mikal Bridges in those gaps, picking up those steals, huge. That's what I want to see from Mikal Bridges each and every game. The intensity, maybe the most intense, I guess you could say hard-working game we played all season. The guys looked absolutely dialed, working their ass off. So really inspired by that performance. And the Spurs are a really good team. You could argue they're the best team in the league. They match up really well against a bunch of teams. But this season, I think we've done a really, really good job playing them. Of course, we beat them in the NBA Cup Finals. Choked like a 20-point lead on New Year's. Not amazing, but we were dominating for a large portion of that game. And today, dominated pretty much the entire game. So I'm feeling really good. The Spurs are a really tough, physical team, great on both sides of the ball. So to do what we did today, I feel really good. Holding Fox to 7 points. Wemby did okay, but only 1 for 7 from 3. And their bench did practically nothing. Shout out to Mikal. Shout out to Shamit, always kind of just being there and causing an impact, being aggressive on defense. And then Muhammad Diawara, we'll speak about him, of course, but this dude's legit. I feel really good.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up DOR because I was just going to get into some of the numbers from this game and looking at this box score. Really, so many different guys contributed in a positive way once again, which they just like they did against the Milwaukee Bucks, which is exactly what we wanted to see. OG Anunoby finished with 12 points, but he also was really good defensively. I thought he did a fantastic job guarding Victor Wembanyama. Karl-Anthony Towns, he also only had 12 points, but the rebounds was super impactful. 14 rebounds, 5 of them offensive. Huge performance from Big Cat. Josh Hart, not the best game shooting wise. He was only 4 for 14, but he got 10 points, 10 rebounds, and 7 assists after really starting off the game very slow, kind of a weird start. He really started to lock in and he really made an impact. We already talked about Bridges having a phenomenal game as well. Jalen Brunson, he started the game off a little weird, but he ended up getting dialed in once again, finishing with 24 points, 7 of 16 from the field, 4 of 7 from 3, and he also got 7 assists as well. But Muhammad Diawara, the guy that I really want to highlight right here, 15 minutes of action, 14 points, 5 of 14 shooting, 14 shots from Muhammad Diawara is absolutely hilarious, by the way. But hey, get your shots up, Rook. 4 3-pointers made, though. That is the huge thing right there from Diawara. And he was a plus 18 in the afternoon. Muhammad Diawara, man, this guy has been continuously making an impressive impact night in and night out. And I don't know if it's a good thing because, I don't want other teams to start looking at him and then try to trade for him or something like that. But either way, it's good for us right now because DOR is looking like not just a player who's doing really good right now. This could be a guy who makes an impact in the playoffs. And that could be something that's very huge for us because last year we didn't really have a backup front court player that could come in the game and score at a high level. But DOR has been just getting better and better as these games go on, and his confidence is raising through the roof. And that's really what's standing out to me. I mean, the shooting today, I know he went 4 for 13 from 3, but most of those shots he was kind of just putting up, late in the fourth quarter and in garbage time. throughout the game, he was really making a difference though. And there was that little stint in the beginning of the fourth quarter when the game was still somewhat in reach for San Antonio, when Diawara knocked down a couple threes that were huge and played fantastic defense that pretty much flipped the game back in the Knicks' favor that the Spurs could not recover from. So Diawara just continues to really impress me. Like I said before on Twitter, I said that, I haven't been this impressed with a second round rookie from the Knicks in quite a while. And a lot of you guys were mentioning guys like Mitchell Robinson. Obviously Deuce McBride is a second round pick. They have a lot of good talent out on the floor, but right now their second round gems have really been the difference maker. And Johnny, I want to pass it back to you real quick. Just, what have you really noticed about Diawara lately? Because this guy is just getting better and better to the point where I don't know what to expect anymore, and that's a good thing though for his sake because he's a rookie. I think he's going to give us good games pretty often at this point.
Yeah, I have a couple things to say about Diawara. First of all, I absolutely love his play. He's a guy who has an amazing feel for the game at only 20 years old. In his rookie season, being the 51st overall pick in the draft, he could score efficiently. He could defend. He has size. He's tenacious on the defensive side of the ball. There's so many great things I could say about Mohamed Diawara. And there's two things that I want to point out. So from Nate Duncan on Twitter, with a minimum of 10 minutes, Mohamed Diawara attempted the most three-pointers per minute in a game ever. 14 minutes, 13 three-pointers attempts. So I love the aggressiveness. I love the confidence that he displays on a nightly basis. And to get to that confidence, I lost the tweet. I forget who actually tweeted it. But Mike Brown said that, not in quotes, but like, you know what I mean. Sorry, I just lost my train of thought. Mohamed Diawara is the most confident young man he has ever coached. That's what Mike Brown said about Mohamed Diawara, and we're not even done with his rookie year. That is insane because Mike Brown has coached a lot of really, really good players. He's been in Cleveland. He's been in Golden State. We know who those teams have employed in the past. So to say that about Mohamed Diawara is incredibly high praise. And I absolutely love his game. As I said, great feel for the ball. He's great with his size, his reach. He's just a big dude. Kind of reminds me of OG on the defensive side of the ball. Obviously not the same. OG is a defensive player of the year caliber defender, but in terms of the size, their reach, he's almost like a blend of OG and McHale a little bit. And offensively, this dude has so much confidence. So I can't wait to see how he progresses. And as only a 20-year-old in the league as a rookie, I have really, really high hopes for Mohamed Diawara in the NBA.
Yeah, Diawara just continues to be super impressive, and like we've been saying, that has been the huge thing, and that's a huge development for the Knicks because I don't think many of us really expected Diawara to even get that many minutes, period, this season. Nevertheless, play important minutes late in the season. So having a guy like him, come in the game and just make an instant impact as a rookie is incredible. I mean, you don't get rookies like that. Most teams don't have second round rookies who can just come in the game and immediately do that. But one thing I want to pivot to the next thing really about this game. The defensive effort all around from this group was terrific from start to finish, honestly. Yes, the Knicks started the game off a little slow, down by 12 after before the first time out, but after that, they were playing phenomenal defense. And I'd even say even before that, they were playing great defense from the opening tip to the end of the game. And Johnny, what really stood out to you defensively? Because if you ask me, I think the pressure of guys like OG, Jose Alvarado, Landry Shamet, like those three guys in particular, need to be talked about because those three guys right there, I think, made some of the biggest plays of the game. And even if they weren't like, a highlight steal or a highlight block, their ball pressure, them forcing the Spurs to drive to the paint away from the three-point line, or them forcing them into a pass and not be able to create their own shot, I think that was huge. And I think that was a huge aspect of the game. And I want to get your input on that because the defense was terrific. And they once again are showing that if they actually try on that end of the floor, they can be an elite defensive team.
Yeah, totally. That's arguably the best defensive performance this team has had all year. And it starts with energy. It starts with tenacity, in your face defense. And I want to credit Landry Shamet because, oh my God, this guy brings 115% effort and energy every single night. This dude was not even about to make the roster. We have him on a veteran minimum contract. I am absolutely in love with Landry Shamet as a Knick. This guy is one of the most underrated defenders in the league. Every single night, he's in your face, bringing energy. just causing havoc on the defensive side of the ball. Excuse me. And Jose Alvarado, he's been an absolutely incredible, acquisition for the Knicks. He's always just being a nuisance on the defensive side of the ball. OG, don't really need to talk about him all too much. We know what he's going to bring. But as you said, when this team really brings it with the energy, this can be an elite two-way team. And that's the biggest, I guess you could say, issue with this team. It's the consistency. We just need to see this on a nightly basis.
$3 million, by the way, this year. $3 million.
Yeah.
Just wanted to pull that up.
On the, is that not the, that's not the veteran minimum?
It is the veterans minimum.
It is? Okay.
It is.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's just incredible value. You're getting a guy who has been arguably your best bench player this season, making a legit impact. And to get to Mohamed Diawara, I know this might be a little, I don't even know if I'd call a little bit early. By the end of the season, I wouldn't be surprised if we're calling him our best defensive player. Is that crazy to say, Dylan?
No, it's not crazy to say because
wait, did I just say defensive player? I meant bench player.
Well, either way, either way, I don't think it's even crazy. I mean, I think OG will still be our best defensive player, but I think the versatility of Diawara though makes him a valuable asset because this is a guy who showed today that he can guard many different positions, and we saw even against Boston earlier this season, he locked up Jaylen Brown, and that's a guy who's going to be in the MVP conversation. So Mohamed Diawara is someone who maybe this year he won't be like the best defensive player in theory, but like you're looking at a guy with him though that can be the best defensive player on your team, a guy who comes in the game and can actually do something on the defensive side of the floor in many different ways. And that's what really impresses me about him the most because this guy's a rookie. This guy is a rookie. He is 20 years old. He turns 21 in 2 months. This is the guy who I personally did not expect to even play at all when he came to the team this year, when we drafted him. I didn't think he'd get minutes. I really did not. I thought he'd be more like a draft and stash type of player, but he's been the complete opposite of that. This is a guy who, Mike Brown is starting to really trust, a guy that Mike Brown believes in, and you can see it in these post-game pressers, all these quotes coming out from Mike Brown, how much he trusts Diawara, how much faith he has in him. And I think what's most important too, and you know what? I feel bad for Jeremy Sohan in a way because he was brought here to kind of possibly have an impact defensively and kind of, be that spark plug. I don't think he can get minutes over Diawara, though. Not with the way Diawara is currently playing. You cannot keep Diawara out of the rotation. I understand Mike Brown's logic by, seeing what you got in Sohan because, I mean, you got Sohan for basically nothing. You might as well see what he can give you to see if he can make an impact for you and actually kind of, be a difference maker. I don't know if he's a fit, though. And I hate that I might have been wrong about that, saying that he could be a good impact off the bench. But it is what it is. He was signed for basically nothing. He's still good to have around as backup, as any insurance. And, of course, just to be in the locker room. Good locker room presence. Guys do like him. So, it's a good player to have right there. But as far as Diawara goes, man, I mean, the guy's unbelievable. I mean, every game he does something that I'm like, wow, you don't see a rookie doing that. So that's really what stands out to me. But I kind of want to pass it back to you and kind of let you get to your next point and anything else you want to talk about from this game because this was a fun win.
Yeah, I think we covered kind of the main points we wanted to talk about. The defense, Mikal Bridges was great. But yeah, Mohamed Diawara, man, we really have a player here. Played the same amount of minutes as Mitchell Robinson. Jose Alvarado only played 2 more minutes than him. So he's clearly a staple of this rotation now. And it's awesome to hear the way Mike Brown is talking about him. It's clear he has so much confidence in what Mohamed Diawara is going to bring. And for a guy who's playing overseas, 20 years old, to come to the United States, big market, New York Knicks, like, you got to give him so much credit for handling the situation incredibly well, providing an impact on a nightly basis. So I have so many great words to say about Mohamed Diawara. But I want to kind of transition to the starting lineup a little bit. What are your thoughts on, how they performed? OG was great. Didn't do all too much offensively, but defensively, he was great. Karl Anthony Towns didn't score a lot, but he was efficient, 14 rebounds. If you want to talk about Josh Hart, obviously the shooting wasn't there, but 10 rebounds, 7 assists. Did he have a block? Let me look right now. Yeah, he had a steal. That's what it was. So can you just talk about his impact? Because obviously the shots are not going to fall on a nightly basis. He'll have some inconsistencies, but just talk to me about what he brings when the shooting's not there. like what he did tonight, 17 rebounds and assists. That's that's
Right.
amazing.
I'm gonna first talk about the cons of Josh Hart
Yeah.
before I jump into the positives here. I don't think the guy should be starting, and the reason I'm saying that, we kind of saw it
Can
today.
I interrupt you real quick?
Go for it.
Is it crazy? You know who I'm going to talk about, to slide Mohamed Diawara into the starting lineup? Is it too
And I
soon
was
for
gonna
him?
get to that because this is what I want to jump into first about Josh Hart. I don't think he should be starting for this reason. We saw it in the beginning of the San Antonio game today, obviously, but Victor Wembanyama was able to just camp the paint because Josh Hart is not exactly a willing shooter. He's not a guy who's like aggressive shooting the ball. And when he was today, he was not making no shots. So they were just leaving him open. They tried that same strategy with Diawara though, and it wasn't working. But even if you don't start Diawara instead, I think you could slide Landry Shamet into the starting five and you get even better results still because when you look at a lot of teams these days, right? A lot of the good teams, they have like that Landry Shamet archetype player as like their starting two, like a guy who defends his ass off, but a guy who also can shoot the lights out, right? And that is what Landry Shamet does. He defends really well. He's good with pressure, and he lets that thing fly. He shoots really well. He's one of their best shooters this year. He's one of the best shooters in the league at the moment as well. I personally, if you're asking me who I think they should start instead of Josh Hart, I would consider Diawara, but my pick is Landry Shamet here because I do think Diawara coming off the bench and providing the impact he provides is something you need. You need him to be able to come in and give you kind of that insurance behind OG Anunoby and behind Mikal Bridges, so that way you're not having to rely on those two guys to do everything. You can expect DOR to come in and fill in for those minutes. But Josh Hart, I don't think he's a starting level player at this point. Maybe he is a starting level player. I don't think he's a starter on the Knicks. I don't think the way that this team is designed, he should be starting. And that's not even really trying to say that he played poorly because, I'm going to get into what he did well today. I thought he did well with the rebounding. The hustle was really great. The playmaking after that first, couple minutes was great. It's the shooting. It is the lack of scoring. It's the lack of shooting. That's the issue. If he's not going to be, willing to just pull up shots that he's open, because I'm sorry, in those first 5 minutes of the game, I was getting very frustrated that he was just passing up open threes. That was frustrating me because, like I said before, Wembanyama was camping in the paint. And we all know how good Victor Wembanyama is at defending shots at the rim. We know how impossible it is to score on him down low. So, considering that they just kept leaving Hart open and he wasn't shooting it, instead he would drive, kind of to the middle and then take that weird floater, that was frustrating me. That was really annoying me. And I was saying on Twitter, he shouldn't be starting. It made no sense to start him. I still firmly believe that. I firmly believe it did not make sense to start Josh Hart in this game against San Antonio. Granted, the Knicks won by 25. I'm very happy that they won by 25, but I think Josh Hart would be much better off the bench. I do. I feel like this is a guy who, he's an energy guy. I feel like with the way he plays, the style of play he has, he would be better for the bench. You could get that same impact. You can still play him close to 30 minutes if you really want to. You don't have to start him. You can still close him if you really want to. I just don't think he should be starting. I think the way that the team should be designed, the starting five should be Brunson, Shamet, Bridges, OG, Cat. That should be the starting five. We've had conversations about the starting five pretty much since the offseason. First, it was should Mitchell Robinson start? Then Diawara started starting games, and we liked how that was looking. Shamet started a couple games, and we've liked that too. Josh Hart, of course, just started more games than all those guys this year, but he's been starting most of these games, and we've had kind of our ups and downs about that. Some games felt good about it. Some games like today, I didn't feel good about that. I did not like that decision to start Josh Hart, but I'm not going to, criticize him. I thought he did do the right things after that first stint of action, but before that, it wasn't good. I don't think it was a coincidence that the Knicks started to get on that run that gave them the lead that they would eventually not give up once Josh Hart came out the game. I don't think that's a coincidence. And looking at the box score too, I'm pretty sure he was the only one that didn't have a positive plus minus. I think his was at 0, if I'm not mistaken. So, I'm not trying to rag on the guy. I just think for basketball reasons, he would be better suited for the bench based on the way this roster is constructed. But Johnny, I want to get your input on that because there's many different candidates that could start. But if you ask me, I'm giving that spot to Shamet. But what do you think about that?
Yeah, Josh Hart's plus minus was at 0. So, yeah, I think if you're gonna want to make a a starting rotation change, it has to be Shamet. course, we love Diawara, but it might be a little too soon for him. Still needs to settle into the league, of course. And yeah, I want a starting lineup where all these guys can confidently shoot the basketball at any point in time. Any one of those starters can shoot 40% from three, whether it be Bridges, Shamit, whoever. And I don't think it's crazy to say Shamit's a better defender than Josh Hart. I know
I'm
Josh
gonna
Hart.
pull up the box score as well so that everyone can see
Yep.
what I'm referring to as well.
And yeah, and Josh Hart is like sometimes not great on the defensive side of the ball. I think Landry Shamet is more in your face, intense point of attack defender. Could fight around screens better. And yeah, I'm not trying to rag on Josh Hart. He had 10 rebounds, 7 assists, but I also think he could put up those exact same numbers off the bench, and we could get creative with those rotations. Say Josh Hart's, impacted the game very well. He's, shooting well tonight. Okay, keep him in a little bit. Get creative with your rotations. You could close with him, as you said. Kind of just feel out the game. I think that's what Josh Hart is really good for. He could come off the bench and you could kind of feel out the game. Okay, is he playing well? Keep him in. If we need a change, do we need to go back to Shamit? Do we need to throw Diawara in there? So I think we have the luxury, of course, of even having this discussion. Of course, we're not deadlocked into Josh Hart being a starter, but I think, yeah, the shooting is definitely a worry. At some points, it looks great, but for the most part, he's not a great shooter. He's clearly the worst shooter in the starting lineup. So I think if you get Shamit out there, you get a guy who can, maybe run the point of attack on defense. He is arguably our best shooter, on the outside. So I think starting Landry Shamet is not a bad idea. I don't really want to talk about Deuce McBride right now because we really have no idea when he's coming back.
He's not going to be back for a while. I mean,
Yeah,
there's no point in
I hate to
discussing
say it,
that
but I
because
wouldn't
it's
be
going to be a
surprised if he doesn't
while.
even play again this season.
He probably won't play again in the regular season. If anything, I expect him to, if he comes back,
Yeah.
it would be in the second round. I don't even think he comes back in the
it wouldn't
first round.
shock me if he's just done completely because those sports hernias are not something to mess around with. He got surgery. Like this is gonna be a big kind of recovery process for him. So I think if you're gonna start anybody, yeah, it has to be Landry Shamet. Would you be opposed to starting Mo Diawara, say down the road and even
I
into
would
the
not be
playoffs, or do you think it's
opposed
too
to it.
early?
I wouldn't be opposed because I do think Diawara has shown that he can be impactful.
Yeah, and how do you what do you think of like a Diawara? You got Mikhail at the 2, Diawara at the 3 or the 4, and then OG. That's
I
a
think that
really
would
good
be
defensive
fine,
backbone.
but I
Yeah.
think the thing that with me with Diawara is that not necessarily his play. I just think, you know, you don't want to put him in a situation where you're having him start and having to have him guard team's best players off rip when he's still developing.
Yeah.
This is a guy whose mentality is great. His confidence is
Mhm.
great. His
Yeah.
poise is great. This is a guy who I trust to, you know, do something about that. But at the same time, you still want to properly develop the guy. And I think the way Mike Brown is doing it currently is correct. I think, hey, even Sohan taking his minutes briefly, I think was fine for Diawara's development because that forces Diawara to kind of, you know, refine his game a little bit, make himself a better option, truly separate him from Jeremy Sohan in that situation. And I think he has done that. So I'm not even mad that that's how it went. Obviously, it just didn't work. And I'm glad that Mike Brown quickly realized that. And, he hasn't played Sohan in the last 2 games. But, you know, as far as DOR starting it, it wouldn't be like the worst thing in the world. It would be fine. I just think Shamit can start, and he's shown he can start throughout this year. He's already shown that. Diawara has too. But I think Shamit being the seasoned vet and being a guy you can trust in clutch situations, if you can trust Shamit in the clutch, I think you can trust him to start the game. That's the way
Yeah.
I see it. And obviously, it's not about how you start; it's about how you finish. But like I said, Mike Brown clearly does trust Shamit a lot, and for good reason, because
For good
Shamit has
reason.
been
Yeah.
balling this year. He's been phenomenal. So if you ask me, that's what I'm doing. I'm starting Landry Shamit, and I do want to pull up some Josh Hart film. But right before I do that, I want to pass it back to you real quick and kind of just we were just talking about Josh Hart, right? So I want to kind of ask you really, obviously he's been starting and it's been fine, but do you think that they should maybe just keep him starting because he does all the other little things such as the rebounding and the playmaking, or do you think the shooting is that big of a detriment? Because if you ask me, I think it is that big of a detriment.
Yeah, I think you could absolutely make the argument that it is. I'm not like completely sold on him not starting, but at the same time, I'd still love to see Landry Shamet get like a run of games where we are healthy, but he is like the actual starter. So I'm fine with that. Am I like mad that Josh Hart is starting? No, I think it's okay. But Landry Shamet, like this dude feels like a guy where, all right, we're in round 2 or whatever the playoffs, we're at MSG, and this dude's knocked down 7 threes and simply won us the game by himself. He feels like that type of energy guy. So yeah, I'm not opposed to Landry Shamet starting at all, but yeah, if you want to get onto the Josh Hart film.
Yeah, and I'm pulling that stuff up right now because I'm
Yeah.
looking through some of these shot attempts that he put up, and some of these are frustrating. And I'm gonna share my screen right now to kind of give you guys that kind of insight here. Let me just get it pulled up real quick and kind of get back to the share screen. Share screen. Here we go. Okay, just getting it pulled up. Johnny, can you see this on the
Yeah.
screen? Okay, cool. So this is the play that really stood out to me back in the first quarter when it was early in the game. First off, Wembanyama's not even guarding Josh Hart like at all. He's not even guarding him. He's leaving him alone. And then Josh Hart's open for 3 right there, wide open. In fact, the nearest defender is in the paint, and instead he drives in and takes whatever this is. I really don't know what that was, and this happened multiple times. Here's other shot attempts that he took in this game. I'm not sure which one this one is, but this is like what are we doing here? Like I'm gonna play that one back because this one also really frustrated me here. You got a good fast break here. You have a good opportunity to score here. Wembanyama's not back, and then Towns drives. You can kick it literally to either Hart right here in this low block, or even back to Brunson. But you probably look for Hart because he's not being guarded. And now Hart, why are you taking that on Wemby? Why? Why are we doing that? It's plays like that frustrate me because we know he is much better than that. We know he's a smarter player than that. And Josh Hart is a guy who likes to force the issue a little bit, and that's fine. I like the aggressive play style. But when you're that open, shoot the ball. Shoot it. When he wasn't shooting it, I was getting very upset about that because I understand Hart's shooting is not like his game. It's not his forte, even though he is shooting well this year. But shoot the ball. If you're wide open, shoot the ball. That is my mentality. With the way the NBA is these days, I mean, we saw Wembanyama pull 7 threes. The guy is 7'5", or as I'm going to quote Karl-Anthony Towns, he's 7'4", 260. So, you have a guy like him pulling 7 threes or whatnot like it's nothing. Josh Hart should have no reason to not shoot threes like that. I mean, like I pulled up in that first play, he just stopped. He didn't even take the 3. He got it and drove in where there's a crowded paint. No reason for that. And it's easy to single out one play, but it's not the only time he's done that. He has done that many times this year, many times throughout the year. It's enough. I want to see shooting because look, when Josh Hart was shooting the ball early on this year, when early on this season when he was actually shooting, look how good their offense was. Their offense was insane when he was actually shooting it. And when he doesn't shoot it, it doesn't go as well. There's a reason why all the metrics do not support this starting 5 as a good starting 5 because of plays like that where Josh Hart is not willing to shoot the ball, where he's being very passive with it. He's not doing anything. He's not taking threes that are wide open. It's frustrating. And Landry Shamet, on the other hand, is a guy who is willing to shoot it whenever. If he's open, he's going to take it, and you can bank on him to make it too because he has been shooting the lights out this year. He's having an amazing season, and I think he's earned that starting spot. If I'm Mike Brown, I'm making that change. I am putting Landry Shamet in the starting 5. I don't, if he doesn't want to tinker with it now because they're 14-4 in their last 18 games, fine. But at some point, he needs to make that decision. He needs to decide if it's better off, starting a guy like Shamet instead of Josh Hart, because it's not even trying to say, oh, Josh.
Can I interrupt you real quick?
Yeah, go for it.
One person we didn't talk about at all, and I'm not saying like he should start, but Jose Alvarado. Any thoughts about? I mean,
see, here's the thing with Alvarado. Him and Jalen Brunson have been doing really well together, right? They've played really well, so I understand this argument. However, I don't want Alvarado starting because I think you badly need to have that backup guard who can consistently carry the offensive load when Jalen Brunson's off the floor. Because we saw, even before Alvarado's arrival, every time Brunson came off the floor, the offense got clunky.
Yeah,
they didn't have a true point guard. They have a true point guard now that can play back there. And I think Alvarado coming off the bench and making an impact and making his Grand Theft Alvarado plays and all that stuff. I think that is the spark they've needed. So I think you want to keep that on the bench instead of moving it to the starting five because again, you can just find ways to play him and Brunson together. You can find that avenue. We've seen Mike Brown has already found the avenues to closing Alvarado like he did against Houston, where he made those clutch plays down the stretch in that 18-point comeback. So you don't have to start Alvarado in this case. And I think also just having him be that spark plug is a difference maker. That's what I think about that. But what do you think about that?
Yeah, I like his energy off the bench. I think you need those type of guys off the bench. And as you said, we were desperately needing a facilitator before the trade deadline. So yeah, maybe Alvarado deserves to start. And maybe in terms of the starting five unit alone, it would be the best. But when you look at it in totality and the bigger picture, we need Alvarado off the bench. You want his spark off the bench. You need that facilitator, the guy that can really run the offense. So as much as I would, if we had two Jose Alvarados, that'd be great. Just throw one in the starting lineup, one on the bench. But we don't have
essentially
that.
will
We
if
don't have
Deuce
that
McBride
luxury.
comes back. So
Yeah, exactly. So I think because Deuce McBride's not a point guard. He's not a
no,
point guard.
no.
So we desperately need Alvarado's facilitating off the bench as much as I'd love to start him.
And the reason that I've really centered Shaman as a starter isn't just for the shooting, too. I should point this out. I think he's more versatile than we think. This is a guy who's
Yeah,
able to
totally.
guard many different positions. And, it always boggles my mind that the guy has been a journeyman for most of his career because
Crazy.
he's been a very serviceable NBA player throughout his career. So and he's obviously been a great shooter. So it blows my mind that he's been a journeyman because this guy's been, what? He was on the Clippers and the Suns, then
Phoenix, yeah.
Brooklyn, then the Wizards, and then us. Like he's been bouncing all over the league, and I
I
never
think he's
understood.
really like relishing in this like big market, like New York City MSG type environment, and he's just playing awesome.
I think the Knicks are a great fit for him, and this is a guy
Totally.
who last year in the very little playing time he got, he showed his impact. Although Tom Thibodeau
Yeah,
should have
he's
given him
averaging the
more
most
minutes.
points he's had since 2018-19 with the Clippers. So
Yeah, and I'm
really
pretty
playing well.
sure on that Clippers team he was almost a fringe starter.
Yeah, because he was
That
shooting
was a young
45%
Clippers
from
team
three.
that
That
was
was,
that was the Shea Gilgeous-Alexander Clippers team, right? The
yeah,
one that was led by them. Yeah,
yeah,
so he was like a fringe starter on that team
yeah,
if he wasn't already a starter. So, and he was much younger then. He was,
yeah. Second
what,
year,
in
second
second
year.
season.
Yeah,
So, this is a guy who's been a journeyman and he's been a serviceable player his whole career.
yeah,
So that's why when the Knicks picked him up last year, I was actually very happy with it because I thought, he could make an impact. Because this is one of those guys where, you know, everyone relishes on the loss of Dante, right? And losing Dante obviously sucks. I wish we still had him around. Don't get
yeah.
me wrong. But Shaman is a guy who can fill
He's
in that
filled that
kind of
role
void.
beautifully.
He's filled that. And what you just said, he's filled that role perfectly, I think. He's providing the energetic defense that DiVincenzo provided, the lights out shooting that DiVincenzo provided. Obviously, DiVincenzo had much higher volume, much more of a longer leash, more playing time. But I think in the spurts that Shamit is out there, he's out there. You feel his impact.
Yeah,
You feel the defense. And even today, the defensive pressure he had out there, it really stood out. I was very impressed. I've been very impressed with it all year, but I was really impressed with it today because I thought today he was doing terrific on the defensive side. I mean, he gets in the defender's face and he doesn't let them get any sort of room. That's what I think is huge. You know what I mean? He's someone who just gives so much pressure to the ball handlers. He really gets into them. That's huge. You want a pest like that. That's why we brought in Jose Alvarado
yeah,
for that pest energy. Now imagine meshing that with Shaman, who has been that pest a little bit this year. That's why whenever Alvarado comes in the game, the defense looks phenomenal because you're playing him alongside guys like Diawara and Shaman, two guys who are exceptional defenders on this team, and Robinson as well. And you feel that. Like today, for example, Shamet came in the game for Josh Hart, and they ripped off a huge run. The Knicks took the lead, and they didn't give it up. They despite that lead, not even really getting any bigger than like 17 until the end of the game, and the Spurs constantly clawing it back to like 9 or 8 points. The Knicks kept that gap open. They kept the gap there so that they could pull away. And in fact, they pulled away at the end. I thought their defensive effort all around was phenomenal, but I think guys like OG, Bridges, Shaman, Bridges won defensive player of the game, but there were many different candidates that could have won Defensive Player of the Game. In my opinion, you could have given it to Anunoby for how he handled Wembanyama. You could have given it to Shamet for the ball pressure he was providing. Bridges very much deserved it. I thought he was the best defender. He was great. So, I mean, when games like this happen, many good things happen, and they look like a team that nobody can beat. At this point, it looks like it's very clear that it's just the Pistons, bro. It is just
It
the
really
Pistons.
is. Yeah.
It is just the Pistons, because realistically, the Knicks should be 3-0 against the Spurs this year. They should be. They're
Yeah.
2-1,
Yeah.
and I'll gladly take that. NBA Cup final win, and then of course, losing the New Year's game, but then today blowing them out. I'll
It's
gladly
really
take that,
just
considering how
trying.
good the Spurs are this year. But they
Yeah.
really should be 3-0. If they don't blow a 20-point lead to the Spurs on New Year's Eve, you're looking at them being 3-0
And
against San Antonio, and they've beaten Denver this year. They've beaten the
yeah,
Lakers.
and we haven't played OKC obviously, but I feel like we do very,
And you
very
know
well
what? We
against these
play
Western.
OKC in 3 days, so we're gonna
Yeah,
have a real idea of how close we are to OKC by then.
and I think
Granted, depending on how healthy OKC is,
yeah,
because
I don't.
they've been dealing with
Shea will play though, so that's
Shea,
big for
Shea,
them.
Shea will probably be playing, but I don't think they'll have J-Dub, and
No,
I don't know the status on like Chet or Caruso
yeah,
or Hartenstein, because
but
I know
we just own the Western
they've been
Conference.
on and off with their injuries. So the Thunder have been rattled by the injuries, but I don't think
Yeah,
they care that much. They're still first in the West, and
yeah,
we kind of just helped the Thunder out by beating
yeah.
the team that was trailing them. So it is what it is there, but I think that'll still be a good idea of how close we are to the Thunder, no matter who is on the floor for OKC that night, because OKC is one of those teams where anybody can come in the game and
Yeah,
kind of just make an impact. I mean, we saw Jalen Williams, the other Jalen Williams, put up 30 points.
yeah,
Jason Wallace put up
crazy.
27 a different night. I mean,
Yeah,
they have many guys who can make an impact at any given moment. So, that's one big thing right there. But, Johnny, before we do start to wrap this stream up a little bit, looking ahead to their next 4 games, right? Because this tough stretch, whatever, it doesn't end here. They have 4 more very tough ones ahead. They got Toronto on, I believe, Tuesday, and then OKC Wednesday, and then after that
yep.
they have Denver and then the Lakers on the road. Those last 2 on the road. What do you expect out of that? Because I said they need to go 3-2 to at least to be good. Off to a great start, 1-0. What are you expecting out of the rest of this stretch?
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be tough playing OKC on a back-to-back and then playing Denver like a day later. That's a lot. And yeah, no, if say we don't win every game, that's okay. But I just want to see this team come out with the consistent energy and tenacity. That's what I want to see because we've lacked. I mean, the defense has been actually much better recently,
It's
but I
been
just want to
best in the
see it.
league since Martin Luther King Day.
Hell yeah. And so like I just want to see this continued. I want to see this consistency. So like I just want to see some consistency with the intensity and the energy. Like I want to see the Knicks of today every game. Of course maybe the shooting wasn't perfect, but defensive energy, getting turnovers, stealing the ball, doing whatever. I want to see that type of Knicks team against Toronto, OKC, Denver. I want to see that each and every game. Now, of course, you're going to have bad games. It is what it is. But I want to see that type of energy. Today's Knicks energy, I just want to see that. Now, of course, you're not going to win every game, as I said. But if you just show a consistent energy like you did today, you're going to be in a good spot.
I think the way they played today was the most perfect they have played all
Yeah.
season.
And
I
the
thought
offense
from
wasn't even
start to
perfect. That's how good this
That's what I'm saying. Like,
offense is. It doesn't need to be perfect. But if that
yeah,
defense
that's what I'm
shows
saying.
up,
Like
it's a
in
dangerous
theory,
team.
this game wasn't perfect because I mean
Yeah.
they've had much bigger wins. I would say, like, the Philly win is
Brooklyn,
an example of
Philly,
a
yeah.
perfect win. The Boston win is an example of maybe a perfect win, or any other blowout win they've got this year. But what stood out to me with this one was the Spurs were healthy. They weren't like,
Yeah.
undermanned or anything. In fact, I'm pretty sure they didn't have any injuries. I
I don't
think
think
the only
so.
guy who didn't play was their recently signed Mason Plumlee, who probably still hasn't gone through the
Yeah.
process of making the team. So that's probably why he didn't play. So the Spurs had all their guys available, and the Knicks just dominated them. I mean, you know how hard it is to not only stop this Spurs team right now, but to stop Victor Wembanyama. I mean, Victor Wembanyama has been phenomenal this year, but one of the Knicks' biggest issues has always been, Karl Anthony Towns at the 5, and how is he going to handle guys like Wemby, or how is he going to handle really good centers? I thought he did great today, and I
Yeah.
thought everybody did great today, containing Wemby. I mean, Wemby still got his here and there, and obviously he had that, crazy poster on OG Anunoby, which we'll make sure the internet wipes that one away
Yeah,
because
that's not real. Never happened.
it was AI. I promise it was
Yeah.
AI. It doesn't count. They lost the game. It doesn't count. But anyways, besides the point, They limited him to what do you have, like 25 points, which is still a great performance, but 7 turnovers. He didn't shoot that well from 3. He was inefficient. That's huge. And the one thing I was worried about coming into it was foul trouble because Wembanyama likes to, bait it a little bit, which I mean, I get it. You're 7'5". You have a lot of frame, so teams can easily just foul you. But I thought they did a good job at limiting that as best as they could, even though Brunson and Towns both did end up in foul trouble. They were able to get the impact from the rest of the guys, so that made the difference. That's why we've been emphasizing the depth this team has had, the other sneaky guys that we've been talking about through this stream, such as Diawara, Shamet, guys like that, because those are the difference makers when like Brunson and Towns are in foul trouble, when that stuff is becoming an issue. You got other guys who can step in and make an impact immediately, and credit to them. They did great, and it was as close to a perfect win as you can get. It really was. I mean, the first 5 minutes, we can look past that ugly first 5 minutes of the game and look at the rest of how they performed, and you look at the rest of it, I have no complaints. I thought they defended really well. They shot the ball well after that. They started scoring. They did everything that I could have asked them to do. And I need this kind of effort more consistently. I need the effort on the defensive side as a team more consistently. I need Mikal Bridges to play this hard as he did today more often. I need that especially. And before we do wrap it up, I want to ask you about that. Mikal Bridges, I thought, played phenomenal today. I thought he played really aggressive, played really hard. I need that more often. I need that more often.
That felt. I know he scored more points. I know he had 35 against Boston, but that felt like his most impactful game of the year. It felt like he was just flying around the court.
And what really stood out too about it is that momentum shots have been a killer for him this year. He hasn't been making those.
Yeah.
He hit a lot of backbreaking shots today.
Yeah. So I just want to see it, man. I want to see it more. That type of Mikal Bridges is such a winning player. It felt like he was just playing with a different energy today. So that's what I want to see from Mikal. That's the type of player we traded for. A guy who could put up 25 efficient points, get 5 steals, and just be a nuisance. So much energy. That was my favorite Mikal Bridges performance. Maybe ever as a Knick, besides the Christmas one. Of course, the Christmas one is one,
and of course, besides the playoff games, last year.
Sure.
When he
that
got
just
those
that
blocks.
felt really good for Mikal. Different energy today.
I think what stood out, it was a complete game from start to finish for Mikal, and he needed that because we've been we've been ragging on him this year, and people have given us a lot of hell for that, and I understand. It's frustrating to hear us talk about a player who's really struggling, but we keep it real here. If a guy is struggling, we're gonna make sure we point that out. But if a guy plays well,
Mikal's an awesome dude, but there's been struggles.
Exactly. I mean, it's been an up and down season for him, and we feel like there hasn't been any sort of rhythm from Mikal whatsoever. But today, I thought he was in rhythm from the get go, and that is what you want. You want to have Bridges be this kind of impactful player, an impactful shooter. The defense was really great too.
And I do want to say one thing. I would have to look back at the film, but it almost felt like when he was shooting the threes, his landing spot was a little different. That might just be wrong. Not too sure. Do not quote me on that, but
we can analyze the tape right now, and I can go and look at Bridges' shots because I thought today he was really good with his jumper. And you know what?
Yeah.
I'm going to go to the film right now. And
a little bit more straight up. I feel like he was landing a little bit more forward. I'm not, obviously don't quote me on it, but let's just take a look and let's see. Because maybe he found something.
The film pulled up real quick, and we can really dissect Bridges' jumpers today because, again, I thought he was in rhythm. I thought today he actually looked comfortable shooting.
That's what it really was.
He actually looked comfortable today, and that's what really is like important, that he's able to be comfortable, that he can, do those types of things on a nightly basis because we want him to be able to be successful. Mm-hmm. So here we go. I got the film pulled up. We're going to share the screen just so we can take a look at this a little bit more and really get an idea of just how important Bridges' game was today. So here's some of his jumpers. Here's his first one. I got all of his makes pulled up right here.
Yeah, let's just that's good.
So we got some right here. Like Bridges, like first off, that's a rhythm shot right there.
Look where he's landing though. Go back a little bit. It felt like the
let me go back to the first clip and pull it back up for you again.
Look at that. Look at where he landed.
So he shoots,
way ahead, and the release feels quicker. The release
definitely felt quicker, and it felt more in rhythm. Here's his second one, and a lot of these were in the corner, which he's been very efficient from this year.
That feels like a quicker release,
Now
man.
this was a great shot. I did
That
not mean to
that
do that.
feels like a
Let me
much
pull
quicker
this back
release
up
than what
here.
we're used to, where it's like that slow wind up. That feels like the Mikal
That
Bridges
was a
I
huge
know.
shot. I'm gonna pull it back up right here. First off, Wemby has his back turned, and I'm glad that they were able to realize that and spot Mikal open in
Yeah.
the corner right here because you have a seam right here. So I'm glad they were
I
able to
think that's
see that.
something everybody in the stream should keep an eye on the next couple of games because that release looks
And
faster, man.
keep in mind, this is considerably a good closeout for Wemby just
Yeah.
because of that long
And it's
wingspan.
Wemby, like, he can kind of reach
He has a
anywhere.
long wingspan. He's able to get up there and block that jumper, but Mikal Bridges has a 7-foot wingspan. This is somebody
Yep.
who can make, he can get those shots over tall defenders, but when it's Wemby, it's a little bit of a different story. But, as you see here, he gets that shot up over him. And
Yeah.
look at the high release, the further jump as you pointed out. But look, he got that high release and that ball gets up there, all net.
Money.
That is the type of Bridges that we have been wanting from. We have wanted this version of Bridges. We want him to be aggressive. Sometimes he takes shots that I wonder why you're taking that shot, but
Everybody does it
everybody
right?
does it here and there. We want Bridges to be in rhythm. I don't want to see Bridges pull up that stupid mid range. I'm sorry. I hate
Yeah, the
that shot.
fadeaway midi? No.
Like he had that one shot in the first quarter, and I'm gonna
Yeah.
pull it back up to show you guys what shot I'm talking about because he had that weird shot right before the first time out that I was scratching my head over. I don't know if he tripped or what happened, but he had like a very awkward shot, and I'm gonna get this pulled back up as you see me go through the screen right here. But when Bridges takes bad shots like that, it's never good, and sometimes he settles for those too much. I'm gonna go back right here to the tape. Those are his makes. Let me get out of there because those are his makes. He did not make that shot that I'm referring to. So I'm not gonna show his makes. We've already talked about some of his 3-point makes. Hopefully this video loads. Okay, here we go. Is this the jumper? No, it wasn't this one. It was this one, I believe. I believe it was this shot. So, you see them come down, whatever. That was a great block by Anunoby, by the way. Fantastic block.
Yeah, OG was awesome today on
yeah,
defense. It was that
look,
one.
like
I think he just got kind of
first
caught.
off, fantastic block, but then Bridges
like caught in the middle of shooting and then passing. And
something
it's just
that really, as you just brought it up, it stood out to me here. I don't know if he really knew what to do. Looked like he was
I think that's just like one of those moments. Like, oh, do I pass?
This is what
do
happened.
I shoot?
I can also explain. He saw this guy right here under the basket. He saw Wembanyama just sitting there, and he felt that mid range was the shot. And I don't know if he slipped because like that was a very awkward landing. If you look at it again, I mean, like he kicked his feet from
I think he
behind.
almost like kind of came up short when he stopped.
I don't know why he did that. I remember when he did that early in the game. I was like, "What are you doing?
Like,
why are you pulling that?" But credit to him, he erased it from his memory. He decided not to attempt that shot again, and he was lights out from three. He was great from three. 5 3-pointers. I that's a huge thing. If Mikal Bridges is knocking down his threes, man, the ceiling of
player,
this team,
so good.
the ceiling of the team raises significantly when you can get this version of Mikal Bridges more often. I'm not asking for the guy to drop 30 or average close to 30 like he was on Brooklyn. He's like the 4th or 5th option. So I'm not expecting him to do that every night. I am expecting him though to give me a consistent maybe close to 20, between 15 and 20, and
give me 17 efficient points a night and we're good.
That's what I'm saying. If you give me a solid 15 to 20 a night on good efficiency and great defense, because some nights he has great offensive performances and bad defense, and sometimes it's vice versa. If he's able to consistently give both at the same time, the ceiling of this team, man, it raises so much, bro.
Yeah, you're right. That's all I gotta say.
It becomes such a difference maker when guys like him can really turn it on and really get going.
When Mikal Bridges is on, he is the definition of a winning player. So that's what I want to see.
And that's why they, extended him. And quite frankly, we've ragged on the draft picks. We've ragged on the extension. And, maybe my opinions about Mikal to some will flip-flop. But I do have faith that Mikal can do something impactful for us. I just, I've been very finicky about it because I really just, you never know anymore which version of Bridges you're going to get on a nightly basis. And I don't like that. I don't like that when when I know he's going to be available, which is great. I'm glad that he's always around and he plays every game. But sometimes I just want him to be aggressive. I want him to actually, be willing to put shots up and put the right shots up. Because against Cleveland, for example, he was too aggressive. He was putting up bad shots. It was not good percentage looks whatsoever. It was an awful look. But today, I thought he did everything right. I thought he was outstanding on both ends of the floor, deservingly winning defensive player of the game. 25 points, 5 threes, 5 steals. Fantastic all around game.
Yeah.
I got nothing else to say about it.
Yeah, I think you kind of covered everything we wanted to talk about. Awesome game from him. Probably my favorite game from Bridges this season.
Yeah, it really was. But, I do think this is a good spot to kind of wrap things up a little bit. But before we do, Johnny, do you have any other final thoughts on this game against San Antonio and, of course, the games coming up against the gauntlet playoff teams
Yeah.
we got?
Yeah, it's a gauntlet. Just one thing, energy. Just bring energy, bring energy, bring energy, and we'll be good. Talent's there. Talent's never been in question. Just bring energy, man. We're good.
It's really that simple. If they
Yeah.
provide the same energy that they had today, then you're looking at them going through this stretch in good shape because after this stretch, they get to play a bunch of tanking teams. And I'm
Yeah.
not even joking. They have like
It'll be
the
nice. Yeah.
Pacers, Nets, and Pelicans back to back to back after this 5-game stretch. So, you have an opportunity here to not only get through this tough patch, but also create some separation in the standings because you're still fighting for that second or third seed. It's unlikely they're going to get the 1 seed at this point unless,
Yeah.
barring an epic collapse from Detroit. So, you want to fight for that second or third seed to avoid having to play the Pistons in the second round if you get to that point, and so on and so forth. Even though you might have to beat the Pistons to get to the finals, I'd rather it be in the conference finals when we're
Yeah.
healthier and not in the second round where it could be disastrous if we lose in the second round. But I do think this is a good spot to kind of wrap this stream up. We're about 50 minutes in. I think this is a good spot to end it here. Let us know what you think about this game, in the comments on the replay on YouTube and, of course, on Twitter. And you can follow me and Johnny's personal Twitter accounts. They are right there on the screen. And we will see you guys in the next episode of Fireside Knicks. Peace out, and let's go Knicks. What a win.